Hey everyone, so this is Chicago Fire Season 6, Episode 20 and 21. Um, 20 is called The Strongest Among Us, and Episode 21 is called The Unrivaled. So, Episode 20, um, let's see, how do I want to do this? So there's two, I guess, big, big storylines. One of them was the main focus, I think. It had to do with Otis and Stella. Otis obviously gets cleared for duty, for active duty again, and so since Stella had stepped up and started driving a truck, Otis, it's between her and Otis um, to figure out who will drive truck. So throughout the entire episode, they're competing against each other to drive truck. But eventually, what Stella does is she decides to um, let Otis drive in exchange for him. Let's see, what did they agree upon? He has to pick up Saturdays at Molly's, like her pickups at Molly's on every Saturday, and then roll the hoses twice a month in exchange for her backing out. So, um, the other big storyline is that throughout the entire like at the beginning of the episode, um, Severide and Boden managed to save a woman who was hit by a concrete truck, um, a truck or a cement truck um, that hit her, and they save her before the ambulance. They end up saving her and all that. So, her father, whose name is Joe, I think it's what his name was. Um, yeah, his name is Joe. Um, and so throughout the episode, his they interact with him, and at first they see him at the hospital when or no, he comes to the firehouse actually and thanks them, and then what ends up happening is in the episode they both Boden and Severide end up getting a manila envelope worth filled with money in it, and they don't know who it's from because it just says all it has on the outside of the envelope are their names, and that's it. So, um, so they're like, well, we have to tell the commissioner about this and all that. So, um, they do, and Grissom is upset about it because, you know, he felt like he was out of the loop and all that, and I'm like, but, and I thought it was him who had done it, like who had given him the money for whatever reason, and I just don't know why he was that upset for no reason, because like he Bowden did what he should have done, exactly what he should have done. So, um, it turns out it was Joe who gave them the money in the envelope, and so they come to this agreement that they will donate the money anonymously. And then, outside of the commissioner's office, Grissom's like, well, I apologize for acting prickly. And Boden and Severide suspect he's up to something. Um, which I do too, because, seeing how he's been acting every time he's come up in an episode is just kind of like, whoo. Anyway, so a kind of minor storyline has to do with Bria, who's freaking out over going to the prom. Of course, Gabby doesn't know this until I think maybe 15, 20 minutes into the episode, maybe even like 30 minutes into the episode. And so she's helping Bria out with going to the prom, and by the end of the episode, they managed to get Bria and her date Donovan to go to prom on a fire truck. And at the end of the episode, when her and Matt are watching them drive away in the truck, she's like, well, I'm ready to start trying again. I assume, I don't know if she means to actually have a kid of their own, or like biologically of their own, or to start trying to adopt again, or what. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But maybe both. But I'm glad to see that she's, willing to start up again. And then the last little storyline that happens is so basically it's Joe Cruz. He gets a message on Facebook from an old classmate from high school named Delia Cantor. Apparently she and Cruz had dated all through his junior and senior year of high school, and so at that time he thought they would get married someday, but she got a track scholarship to school in Kansas while he stayed in Chicago. And apparently she's married now. And so he meets with her to have dinner. And let's see. He, says, well, you're married. And it's like, she is claiming that she thought about him a lot over the years, and that and basically them together, and how she doesn't want to she basically, she's making it sound like her marriage is over, which is like, okay, if it's over, get divorced. Don't just cheat. Because you're technically cheating. To me, you're still cheating if you're married, if you're legally married. Because you could say anything if you're still married. You could say, oh well, we're the marriage hasn't been that great the last few years, and I'm miserable. We're getting divorced, or both, or we're separated and possibly going towards divorce. You could say almost anything to cheat, almost anything. And so basically at dinner she's like, well, I'm gonna get a hotel room, and we're if you want, you can come up to my hotel room and we can get it on. So what ends up happening is Cruz goes to the hotel, but we don't know what happens at the end of the episode, because all we see is him sitting in the car. And then so that brings us into episode 21, where we see him walking out of the elevator into the lobby, And he, along the way, he's seeing these people who give him like serious looks like they know what he's done, and so that makes him feel guilty. And so once he's at 51, he's like, well, I can't find my money clip, have you guys seen it? So he lies and says, he lies to Brett, saying, well, I left it at Leon's when I was over there helping him with some furniture, I think. And when he wasn't. Clearly it's because he left it at the hotel room. So yeah, we also see, Herrmann is coaching a basketball game, one of his son's basketball games, and one of the dads is, very enthusiastic and, yelling and interrupting and all that. So Hermann's like, shut up and sit down or I will forfeit this game. And so anyway, those two, Cruz and Herrmann, are both, those two storylines are continuous throughout the episode. I'll finish up Cruz's storyline real quick. So eventually, Delia comes to 51, saying, can you tell Joe I came by? And oh, here's his money clip. And she says all this to Brett, who then in turn calls him out on his lying and the fact that she doesn't like the fact that he's shacking up with a married woman, and she's just very disappointed in the fact that he's sleeping with a married woman. And so eventually he's like, he meets up with Delia, saying, I can't do this, we can't do this anymore. And he does this in a bar, and as he leaves, he's like, the husband he does this, I think, does he do it in Molly's? I think he does it in Molly's. Well, I don't know, but the husband ends up coming in anyway and punches him in the face. So the next day at shifts, Cruz is like, you know what, Brett, you're right. I shouldn't have done anything with her. After she's pressing cold peas to his face. The thing with Herrmann and the dad at the basketball game, the dad's name is Paul, and Paul's a fellow firefighter. And at a call at a automobile garage where they fix basically a mechanic's garage, Herrmann gets told to pair up with somebody to go inside, and so he pairs up with Paul. So they go inside, trying to find one of the people that is unaccounted for. Now, Herrmann and Paul end up finding him, but on the way out, they get separated because Herrmann ends up, while he's dragging the unconscious mechanic out, the unconscious mechanic's foot gets caught on something, and Herrmann has to, get his foot free, which Paul doesn't see, and so he ends up, leaving without him in a direction that isn't the right way out. So Herrmann ends up getting out safe and clear with the mechanic, and he wants to go back inside to look for Paul, but Boden's like, no, you can't. And then an explosion happens in the garage, and he ends up dying because he couldn't get out in time. And so Herrmann is torn up inside, even though the mechanic that he saved is doing well, and he's blaming himself for Paul, and um, Mal just like, trying to pick him back up and all that. So they go to Paul's family to pay their respects and all that. And he ends up finding Paul's and his son shooting basketball in the driveway and goes over to hug him at the end. So that was actually the main storyline. And aside from Cruz's small storyline, another storyline is that Renee from, I think, season 1 or 2 comes back. I don't remember when, but this was like early in the series, and she ends up coming back to ask for Severide's help about a about a oil refinery fire that the CFD worked, and she wants him to take a look at everything, and if he can help her, they'll pay him a stipend for helping, and then if he can't, then no problem. So basically, the lowdown on her, if nobody saw previous seasons before, is that Renee and Severide had a relationship, and she got an offer to work, I think, in Italy. I think that's what they said, was that she got a job to work in Italy or somewhere in Europe, and then she wanted him to go with her, but he declined and stayed in Chicago instead. And either a couple weeks or a couple months later, she comes back to Chicago saying, she comes back to Chicago visibly pregnant, claiming that the child she's carrying is Severide's, and Shay, I think her first name was Lindsay, but her last name is Shay or whatever, so I'm gonna call her Shay. Shay was Severide's first roommate and best friend, and she felt something was hinky about the whole timeline of her pregnancy, and so she brings it up to Severide, and so Severide questions whether the baby is actually his, and it turns out the baby really wasn't his, it was somebody else's. And so she leaves, and then she it looks like she has like a 4 or 5-year-old son now. And so yeah, that's basically a lowdown on them. But it looks like he's gonna take a look at the files just to see what he can do for her. And that's basically it with that. And then so basically the last very little storyline is that Matt and Severide decide to vouch for Boden on getting his hat in the ring for the commissioner's position, because the commissioner is resigning, or no, he's getting a different position. I don't remember what position it was, but he's getting a different position, and so they put in good words for Boden to see if he can get the commissioner's position, because he deserves it. So they set out to do that, and then towards the end of the episode, Boden finds out about it and at first is upset about it, but upon seeing everyone at Paul's widow's house, he's like, you know what, I will decide to throw my hat in the ring for the commissioner's position. But it turns out Grissom is also deciding to fight for that position as well. So I don't know how that will bode for him, because maybe that's the angle that Grissom is trying to get at, because he feels, I think maybe he still feels slighted that Severide didn't take him up on his offer to promote him or something. But it's whatever, I guess. I don't know. We still don't know if he's up to something, but it seems like he is. So it looks like in the promo for tomorrow night's episode, Boden and Grissom find out about each other running for the commissioner position. And Grissom is like, he's telling Kelly, you're gonna wish you hadn't stabbed me in the back. Like, what? I mean, what? I mean, okay. If you really want to say all that, I mean, at this point, I just want him to just fade away into the sunset, riding on the back of a horse or something. I don't know, because at this point, I'm just tired of him and his temper tantrums. Because at this point, they're kind of getting a little old. And I mean, part of me kind of hopes he gets the commissioner's position, because that would mean that Boden doesn't leave. But I don't want him to get it as well, because that would mean that he would do whatever he could to retaliate against Severide and Boden as well, and I don't want that to happen either. So maybe they can have someone else get the position, and then he just disappears and Boden can stay, and that would be that. And I mean, let's just hope that happens, because I don't want that to I don't want anyway. So we also see in the promo that Severide or Renee and Severide might become a thing again. Might. And Stella's like, just stay away from him. Don't do anything to him. Keep your filthy mitts off of him, because he's mine. Well, she basically says that without ever having to say all that. I think she's trying to get back with him. I don't think she's going to be successful, but it seems like she's trying to do that. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking they might try to do another cliffhanger. Because I don't think it was season 5, but I think it was like season 4 or something, where they ended on a cliffhanger where Matt was in. They kind of did like a Ladder 49 type of thing, where Matt was in a warehouse and he was trapped in the season 4 finale, and we didn't know what would happen until season 5 came out. And so I'm thinking they might try to do that again. Not like what, exactly, scene for scene and that, but I think they might try to do that where maybe with Severide, where Grissom might feel bad for, saying all that, or doing whatever he's gonna do in episodes 22 and 23, and then, renege on the whole commissioner's position, maybe. I still don't know if Amon Walker is gonna be doing anything, because they're making it sound like they're transitioning him out from the show, because we don't really see the commissioner all that much, unless it's something major, like, the whole getting money in an envelope type of thing. So, and that's, the commissioner has to deal with it. I mean, so I didn't see anything a couple weeks ago about him having secured some new show or movie or anything that he's slated to work and would take him away from Chicago Fire. I mean, just because it's not announced yet doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there. But again, I don't know. So I don't think that he's going to get the position, but I don't think. Well, no, maybe he might. Grissom might, because they might keep him around for like the first several episodes of season 7, if they have a season 7, um, so that they have some drama or something again. Um, then let me see if they actually are coming back for season 7. I'm not really seeing anything on Wikipedia, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just means that they haven't. The network hasn't came out and said anything about it yet. So maybe they will. Maybe in the next. I don't think they really say if a season or if a show has a new season until like middle of May or end of May. So it might be a little while before we hear about that. But as far as I know, they're gonna still work. They're still gonna go be under the impression that they're gonna have another season. So, I mean, I doubt that they won't return. I mean, unless they do like Nashville and decide to cancel or something. I don't know, but and then reboot it or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so that's all I really have. Well, no, I will say this. I hope that Delia doesn't continue making appearances. I hope she doesn't, because Brett was right. Cruz is so much better than sleeping with a married woman, and he shouldn't be stooping to that just because he had a fling with her. If she was actually in the middle of getting a divorce and he saw that she was in the middle of getting a divorce, or she was already divorced, that'd be one thing. Have a relationship with her. Do what you do. Do what you gotta do. Do what you want to do. But if she's not actively trying to get a divorce or hasn't already gotten the divorce, don't be pursuing a relationship with her just because she claims that her and her husband are pretty much done and over with. Don't. So hopefully that's dead and squashed. I didn't see anything in the promo about her coming back in the next 2 episodes. Who knows? But that's all I really have.